Live from Studio 7E in Rockefeller Center, this is Today in New York.
Well, if you're done with your shoveling, you may want to come inside, curl up on the sofa, and read a nice, long, good book.
Yeah, or if you just need to take a little brief break. But there are so many good books. How do you choose? We've just the guy.
We've just your man. It's Bill Goldstein here with his picks of the week. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm terrific. Thanks. You get a lot of reading done this week in the
Yes, I did. It was. I actually had a snow day yesterday. You know, I was supposed to be at a conference yesterday, and it was canceled. So it was like, oh, I had a snow day.
So you just read a couple books.
Yeah, I spent read a couple of books. Yes, but I'm catching up for 2 weeks from now too. I have to think ahead.
All right. Well, we saw the storm coming, but one of your good books here is things we didn't see coming.
Right.
What's it about?
This is a book of linked short stories by Stephen Amsterdam. I mean, one of the things, both of the books that I'm talking about, one is a first novel, and this is a first book. It was published in Australia last year. He is a writer born in New York, a native New Yorker who now lives in Australia, and it's a series of linked short stories about a kind of post-apocalyptic present and future. I mean, we're in this unnamed country in an unnamed time. I mean, it starts out at the Y2K scare, and it sort of goes from there as if the world has gone horribly awry. And what's beautiful about this is not only how gorgeous his writing is, I mean, just sentence by sentence, and the way he's linked these stories, even though they're separate moments in this main character's life. But what it does is it shows you the world as it could be. I mean, sort of what your fears are of the world gone wrong. I mean, relationships between parents and children. I mean, disaffected relationships between lovers. I mean, he covers it all in a very compressed way. It's just a beautiful book. Things we didn't see coming. I mean, and it's exciting to read this book and know that this is his first book. It's just so accomplished.
Well, and the next book is a first novel. This author writes short stories typically.
Yes.
Union Atlantic.
Adam Haslett. His first book, You Are Not a Stranger Here, was a book of short stories published in about 2002. And when the Today Show actually had a book club, it was one of the book club selections of the Today Show. So he's a successful writer. But this is his first novel, Union Atlantic, is about the collapse of the financial system. And when I say that it's as if he wrote it in the last couple of months, but it actually was completed in 2008, he says, the week before Lehman Brothers collapsed. So, I mean, he really wanted to write a novel, he said, about the Federal Reserve, how the Federal Reserve works. And that begins to sound sort of like Arthur Haley territory. Remember the book Airport?
Yeah.
But he makes it a really compelling story because what he does is he shows a bank and financial collapse. There's a main character named Doug Fanning, who's sort of like the George Clooney character in Up in the Air. You know, that he's an attractive weapon, the author says. He's the director of special plans at this small bank in Boston that has become a big bank by taking a lot of risk. And so what happens when the risk collapse? And so it's really a beautiful book about the banking system. I know that sounds like an oxymoron. How could that possibly be?
Yeah, really.
But what he does is he connects the characters. There's also the Federal Reserve Bank president of New York, is a main character, and his sister lives near Doug Fanning. So he connects the financial collapse to people's moral failings. And it becomes a very compelling story about the relationship between the people as well as the larger issue of the failing economy. And so it reminded me a lot about Up in the Air because it is a book that's sort of ripped from today's headlines, yet is something about really meaningful. So Adam Haslett is a magnificent writer, and it's a really exciting book. Again, a first novel.
Union Atlantic.
Union Atlantic.
All right. Thanks as always, Bill.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Well, if you want to ask Bill a question, right?
Just email him.
Email him. What's the address? Bill's Books at NBCUNI.com. And some of the questions may be answered right here on the air. So there you go.
So ask a good one.
Ask a We won't embarrass you.
Right? And coming back, Sparkles and